Welcome to the Ogles channel. Thanks for watching today. Let's continue our journey to finish every single Game Boy and Game Boy Color game, and then we're going to take a look at a game called Avenging Spirits. Now, I had never heard of this game before, but evidently it's like a cult following game. It's been re-released on like Nintendo Switch at some point. It's got an arcade version as well, and I was just oblivious to this game. But honestly, this is a really cool, quirky, and unique game that has a lot of high points and a really sad ending, which we're going to get to in a little bit as well. Now, this game also got moved up in the queue as far as which games I'm covering first, because Mod Simmons mentioned in a comment he'd like to see a video on Avenging Spirits. So naturally, we moved it up to the top, and here's a video on Avenging Spirits. If there's a game that you would like to see me cover sooner than later, let me know the name of that game in the comments down below. And as we journey through all of these Game Boy games, I'll move your game up to the top of the queue as well. But let's go ahead and get into Avenging Spirits. Now, I always like to start these reviews off by looking at the box art first, and this game has a pretty unique box art variety, as in like every region it was put out in had a completely different box art, and some regions are way better than other ones. Like, for example, the one we got in North America here, it looks like a Dick Tracy cover, and I can't really say I'm like a huge fan of this one, but it does somewhat represent the game because this is a core villain in the game who ends up murdering our character at the very beginning of the game, and you can also possess different gangsters throughout. So, I mean, the cover is accurate, but it just really, it has a way more serious tone than for what this cartoony game is going to basically cover as we go. It's not necessarily like a bad cover here, it just feels like you're playing more of like a old school shooter game than you're going to be playing like a wacky ghost game. Now, the Japanese cover and the European cover are both pretty similar here, and they actually represent the game really well. Because right there in the center, you have your title character here, which is, of course, this little ghost, and the ghost can possess a variety of bad guys as you go, and across or behind the ghost are all different bad guys that you can possess throughout the game, including on the Japanese cover, the little fire dragon in the bottom left-hand corner. And so both of these are like really good covers. They represent the game 100%. I know some people say it's like a little bit too wacky or too happy for a game that deals with someone dying and coming back as a ghost to possess people, but for the most part, like the gameplay of the game is pretty lighthearted. Only the story itself has the darker tone. So I feel like both those covers are really good, and I really wish America could have got the one of these covers instead of our Dick Tracy cover. And I also realized here that I was saying the title of the game wrong. I said Avenging Spirits. It's just Avenging Spirit, so my bad on that. But let's go ahead and jump into the main game. Now, when you start the game up here, you have a nice little cartoony intro screen or title screen here with some really peppy music playing behind it. You think it's a pretty happy little game. But if you actually wait for the music to stop and you wait for the cutscene to begin, which does take like 20-30 seconds, it's sort of odd like how long they waited for the cutscene to start, you actually get the full background story of the game. And it's not shown any other time, so you can't like start the game and get this little cutscene. You have to literally wait like 30 seconds from the title screen to get it. But what it does here is it shows you and your girlfriend, you're out on a nice little date, a nice little evening on the town, and these gangsters jump out and they basically mug you, and in the process of mugging you, you try to protect your girlfriend, and then of course you get shot. And when you get shot, you actually die. And that's the intro of this game, is you getting killed by these robbers or these gangsters, and you actually start the game off dead. And like, what a sad, dark intro. And of course the game immediately after it shows you that dying scene jumps straight back into the peppy music of the title screen. And so the game really has like two separate tones here, and it's going to be a dark tone for like the story, and then a peppy happy tone throughout most of the gameplay experience. Now, when you begin the game, the story does continue from here, and basically your girlfriend's father is a ghost energy researcher, and she brings you back to life and wants you to go and rescue his daughter, who's been kidnapped by the gangsters who murdered you. And evidently they murdered you, or tried to kidnap the daughter to hold her ransom to try to get information on the father's ghost energy. But regardless of that, your whole mission here is basically to travel through these levels and then find your girlfriend or this ghost researcher's daughter and rescue her and return her back to her father. And that's pretty much the entire concept of the story. And from here you finally appear as your little ghost, and you have the option to possess 3 creatures down below you. And it also explains that the faster you possess a creature, the less your energy bar is going to go down, or your ghost energy, and the slower you take to possess a creature, the faster your energy bar is going to go down. And when it gets all the way down to 0, of course that's when you die and have a game over. And so naturally you have to possess 1 to 3 creatures down below. And I possessed what I thought was going to be like a little kangaroo here, but it turned out to be a little dragon. And if you played like the arcade version of this game, it's definitely more clear, because I did watch some footage of the arcade version after I finished this one, and it's way more clear. It's a dragon, it's green, it looks like a dragon, but I mean, come on, this looked like a kangaroo, and I thought it was until it breathed fire out, and I was like, okay, fine, it's a dragon. But regardless, this is the creature I choose to possess first, and we begin the game. Now in the first level here, in stage 1, I really did think that I was just simply playing a normal platformer. I mean, you have some peppy music in the background, you know, you're jumping from platform to platform. I did love the way my little dragon looked when he was jumping from all these platforms. A pretty adorable little look here when he like ducked down. I mean, the character animations for like every single character that you become in the game is pretty adorable and pretty cute. But regardless, you know, jumping through these platforms, breathing fire out, killing these enemies, and I finally make it to the end of the level. And I get to the end of the level, and there's a little worm that comes out of the ground as the boss. And of course, you know, I breathe fire on it. You know, didn't take very long at all. First try, killed the worm, and I was like, so is the game just a basic platformer where I've possessed this dragon, and that's it? But then I got to stage 2, and the difficulty jumped up a little bit, and I died for the first time. And when I died, that's when I realized what this game is all about and what makes this game so incredibly unique. When you die, you become your little ghost again. And then you have your energy bar at the top, and that's how long you had to possess another creature inside the level. And you can possess any little enemy on the screen, including the one that just killed you. You can now possess that creature or that person, and of course then you can take over and you'll play the game as that new sprite or as that new character until you die again or until your little life meter runs out, and then you become a ghost again and you have to search once again for another creature, another person, another robot in order to possess. And I'm telling you, it is so cool just to see all different abilities, all different animation of all these characters as you get killed, float out as a ghost, possess someone else, and the game plays like completely different for all the characters. Some have like really floaty high jumps, some have like really powerful shots, some have like, you know, short melee attacks, and it's just amazing to see how many different animations they had to create for this game and how many different character basically builds they had to do in order to make this game work. And I've never seen a game to really do this. I know like Mario Odyssey did when you throw your little cap out there and you become basically that creature, but this is like Game Boy. It's like the early 90s, and the idea that you can just simply possess all these creatures and play through the game in a variety of different ways. Talk about replayability. But regardless, in stage 2 here, I'm telling you, I died a lot, and I possessed, I think, every single enemy in this entire stage. But I did find that I felt the robot, or the little, basically looked like the enemy from RoboCop here, was probably my favorite, and it had a great jump, powerful attack, and I finally reached to the end of the level. And then you get to the boss of the stage, and the boss of the stage is, once again, pretty easy like the first one. It's basically a construction vehicle. A little gate opens up here, you just have to shoot in when the gate is open. There's a little ball on a chain sort of drops down to try to squish you in different times. Pretty easy to avoid that as well. And honestly, all the bosses in this game are pretty easy, but this one especially was. And this is going to wrap up stage 2. Or it would have wrapped up stage 2 if I hadn't remembered a key detail here. In every stage, or at least in half the stages of the game, there are keys hidden throughout. You have to collect 3 keys throughout the entire game. That's going to allow you to unlock the final little cell to rescue your girlfriend at the end. And so you have to make sure you find these keys. Most of them are really easy to find. I know this one in this level was like super obvious, and the last one's super obvious. The only one that's not like real obvious or you have to get is probably the second key, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. And after every stage, you get like a little cutscene, which advances the story a little bit, all focused around trying to find your girlfriend or this old fella's daughter. And so, I mean, the cutscenes are never like amazing, but they do at least, you know, continue a narrative to keep you going and focused on the overall mission. Now, stage 3 continues here, adding in some new enemies that you can possess. But truth be told, I didn't possess any enemies in stage 3 because my robot master here was working so well. And I just went through the whole stage. It basically sort of curls around like a cinnamon roll, and you finally work your way to the middle, and you get to this another boss, which is once again a giant worm, sort of like the one in stage 1, except for this one has little platforms. And I figured out if you just simply lay on the top platform and just shoot straight forward, like all the attacks miss you except for like one every now and then. So you will take a few hits, but you're going to be doing way more damage, and you'll have them killed well before you even come close to dying. And so this is a really easy boss, but once again, this boss animation, like the first one, is pretty cool. I didn't really care for the construction vehicle a whole lot, but this one and the first one and all the ones after this are really good bosses in the game. Now, stage 4 is more of a sewer level, and this is a level that has like probably the most aesthetic change to it. Most of the levels look pretty similar throughout the game, but this one is definitely like a sewer level, and you got some new enemies in here as well. You do have like a little baseball fella who's going to, you know, throw little baseballs at you. You also have a like electric bear, best way I can describe it, who's like super powerful. It killed me with like one hit, and that's who I ended up possessing next. And I used the possessed bear throughout a good bit of the game here. But as you work your way through the sewer level, the level itself is pretty easy for this one as well. And you get to the final boss, and this is probably the hardest boss in the game, But what he does here is he basically has a little rustle in the water, pops out of the water, does a little spit move at you. Not too bad to avoid, but you have to sort of bait it out a little bit. And then he throws all the water up in the air, or maybe they're ghosts up in the air, and they come raining down upon you. And if you're not real careful, these can hit you pretty easily. I found if you just sort of watch the top of the screen and sort of align your eyesight with that and move, you'll move in just the right timing to dodge most of them. But it took me a couple tries to get down pat. But he's probably the hardest boss in the game. He's still not like super hard compared to like other games, but for a game that has like all super easy bosses, he is the most challenging. It did take me a couple tries to actually get the timing right for all the little rain that's coming down. But overall, still a pretty fun boss, and it's nice to have a little bit of a challenge along the way. Now next up is stage 5, and this is probably the hardest stage in the game because there's a lot of different spikes throughout the level that if you fall on, there's just sort of instant death, and that gets sort of annoying. But I did find there's one enemy that you can possess in this level, and I just ended up letting him kill me most of the time so I could possess his body. And I'm basically like a little snake charmer here because he has the ability to like actually fly through the level, and if you get him, you can just simply fly over pretty much all the spike parts, all the hard parts, and just sort of come down where you need to go through a door. And even with that, there still are some opportunities to die. It just makes it way, way easier. Now the key is hidden in this level, and it can be really easy to miss as well, because along the path, if you don't actually go up to the top door when you come from one of the doors, and go follow that path all the way back to the left, you won't get the key. I don't know if there's like a consequence for not getting all the keys, but I think you have to have them to like beat the game. So I'm assuming like in the last level, if you didn't collect all the keys, it'd throw you back to this level. I don't know that for a fact. It's sort of my assumption because you do need the keys to unlock your girlfriend from the gangster's little prison cell that they have her in. But regardless, the key's not too bad as long as you know to go in this particular door here, trace it back, get the key. And like I said, if you get the little snake charmer character, you can just sort of fly through this level. But regardless, you get to the end of the level, and guess what we fight again? We fight another giant worm or giant snake. I don't really understand the obsession for it or how it relates to the game or to gangsters or to spirits or anything really. But regardless, it's still a pretty cool looking enemy. It almost looks like a cactus snake or cactus worm, if there was ever such a thing. I don't know, I'm assuming when it's in color, this would be a green and brown little creature. That's at least what my mind imagines. But once again, I found if you just simply hide out in the bottom left-hand corner and just sort of duck down, he won't ever actually hit you. I just sort of jump up, fire a few shots out at him, and duck back down. Now, like I said earlier, if you go through the entire level as the little snake charmer, if you get to the final boss as him, you're gonna have a really hard time because the snake charmer only has like a melee weapon where you can sort of punch forward. You're going to need a character that can actually shoot out if you want to do the strategy. And boy, I can't even imagine how hard he'd be with the snake charmer. But doing this strategy with a little distance weapon, super easy, but still a pretty fun boss. And then you come to the last stage in the game, which is stage 6, and this one actually mixes the gameplay up a little bit because you come into a room here, and I didn't really know what I was doing at first, but you sort of go through and you collect all these ghost letters, or all the letters that make up ghost, G-H-O-S-T, and they're hidden throughout the level, and they're not like really hard to find. You sort of like luck up on them to a degree, and when you stand on them, of course you collect that letter, and even if you end up dying, you don't actually have to reset that, so you just simply collect some of the letters and you end up dying. You don't have to collect them again the next time you go back into the game. But regardless, you collect all the ghost letters, and then you can actually unlock one of the doors that has ghost written above it. And this was sort of hinted at during the cutscene as well. But of course, you unlock this door, go in there, and you get the final key in the game. Now, the final key is going to unlock or rescue your girlfriend out of the little cell here. And then, of course, you possess your girlfriend, which is sort of an odd twist of events. I'm not going to lie. I'm not really sure how that works, unless the two of you to combine was the only way to defeat the final gangster here. But regardless, you travel a little ways and you go into the final boss or the final level here, and it's the ultimate gangster, and he's riding in a chicken mobile or a chicken rocket. I'm not really sure like what their thoughts were here. It's just sort of an odd little creature or odd little, I don't know, imagery they came up with. It doesn't relate to the game. I have no idea why they chose a chicken mobile for him, but that's what it looks like to me. He's super easy to attack because she has like a really powerful laser. You go through several attacks on him or several hits on him. He's done probably first try for most players. I know he was for me. Really, really easy boss. But after he's gone, you get a final cutscene for the game. Of course, the girlfriend has been rescued. She's on like a little cliffside here. And you get this sad, sad little cutscene where you basically say that you came back into this world and now it's time to leave and your time on the planet is over. I mean, and the girlfriend's basically saying goodbye to her boyfriend, and it's just a sad ending. I mean, the boyfriend came back to life to rescue his girlfriend, and now he carries on into eternity. I mean, it's a really dark and sad ending. And then I think the game tried to like lighten the mood a little bit, because then they said, or is it all a dream? And I'm like, was that really part of the game, or they just sort of added in there in order to, I don't know, lighten the mood a little bit? At least that's what it felt like to me. It felt like they were trying to lighten the mood. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was always the intention. But it felt like they said, hey, this game is a little too dark. We're basically having the boyfriend just die here. maybe we should put a little, uplifting spirit. And I think that's what the idea behind the maybe a dream. Could be completely wrong, but that's at least my thought about it. And the credits begin to roll, and the music behind it does fit the mood pretty well. And I have to say, like, the music throughout the game, for the most part, is like peppy music, which fit like most of the levels or little animations, like when you possess the creatures, because they had like little funny animations to go along with it. The music fit the game well throughout the experience, but none of the songs were like really catchy. They're not really memorable. And they repeat pretty quick as far as like they're not long songs, and they could get on your nerves a little bit. But outside the music, I think this game is a fantastic game. It's one of the most unique games that I've come across in this Game Boy journey, and it's one of the more unique games I think I've played as far as like retro games, as far as like having a concept that I've not ever seen in the game before. I've never seen a game where you get to basically get revenge or possess the creatures or enemies that just killed you, and then play as that enemy. That's a really unique concept. And the idea they designed the gameplay mechanics behind all of these different creatures and you could actually become them, I think it's pretty phenomenal. But even outside that main gimmick mechanic, the gameplay is really solid in the game. I mean, all the jumping is spot on, the movement is spot on, dodging the little projectiles, being invincible for a couple of frames. Everything's like spot on of that. The graphics are pretty wonderful in the game as well. I mean, they're not like groundbreaking or anything, but the sprites are always clear, and I really did like some of the animations they put on the sprites. Like I said, they're not like super detailed, but they try to put like little funny things in there, little interesting movements, and I actually really like the sprite. Now, some of the backgrounds probably could have been a little bit more well designed or more unique, or separate one level from the other level, but this game really focuses on like characters and enemies and who you can play as, and so I think they sort of let the stage mechanics or the stage graphics, and I think that was probably a better decision to focus more on the characters. But overall, this is a really fantastic game. If you haven't had a chance to play it, it's on the Switch, at least the arcade version is. They re-released the Game Boy version of it a while back, like a special edition glow-in-the-dark little cartridge, which is really cool. But if you haven't had a chance to play Avenging Spirit, I say definitely give it a try. It's only like 30 minutes long if you're like really proficient, or if you're like me, it took me like an hour and a half to get through the game. But it's a ton of fun, and it's definitely a Game Boy classic. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other videos listed up above. Be sure and comment down below if there's any games that you want to see me cover sooner than later in a video. And as always, go out there, find a great game to play, and just simply have a great rest of the day.